Oh dear. Welcome to the Society of Authors and welcome to our second SoA at Home online festival. Our autumn-winter season is a 9-week programme of online events which runs until the 10th of December 2020. Most events are free, but if you can afford to, please consider donating to our Authors Contingency Fund. And we suggest a minimum donation of £5, and the link is in the chat bar. We also have a new thing this time around. We have a virtual Blackwell's bookshop, and you can buy all the titles from our featured speakers, and any money from those sales goes to the Authors Contingency Fund, well, percentage, sorry. And there's also a link in the chat bar as well, where you can find that. So some housekeeping. Some of you today are going to experience buffering. I'm sorry about that. There's nothing I can do. But what you can do is you can just set your reset button, which is above. Press that, and that will reconnect you. And then the other thing is on the right-hand side is our chat bar. Post your questions in there in capitals so that we can see them. And then about at 2:35 or 2:40, after 10 minutes from each presenter, we're going to move into your discussion, your questions, observations. So we're going to pick up all your Q&As from that chat bar, but you can post all the way through. And we're going to finish today at around 2:50, definitely by 3. So on the steering committee, we've been discussing the consequences of the pandemic, authors' careers. And today's talk, Show Me the Money, is hopefully a sort of way to give you a few more ideas about new revenue streams, perhaps a new practice that you might want to introduce to your services. So our speakers today are Candy Gourlay, who's chairing, Steve, Antony and Shoo Rayner. So Candy Gourlay is the author of Phone Talk, which was shortlisted for the Costa Prize in the Carnegie in 2019. Since the pandemic began, she's been turning her school visits, presentations into videos. So I think lots of you are going to be interested in that. Steve Antony is an award-winning author and illustrator of many picture books, including the all-new Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, The Queen's Hat, and the Please Little Panda series. Steve recently started selling his illustrations online and continues to explore safe and creative ways of reaching out to schools, libraries, and bookshops in this COVID climate. Shoo Rayner, former chair of CWIG, back again. As well as writing, illustrating, and repurposing over 200 children's books, Shoo is an award-winning YouTuber with over 1,800 videos, nearly 60 million views, and over 340,000 subscribers. He's self-published several books, some launched on Kickstarter, and has a small but loyal bunch of supporters on Patreon. So I'm now going to disappear and hand you over to the experts. Candy?
Thank you, Jo.
The hot seat is yours.
Thank you.
Off.
All right. Show me the money. If you signed up for this panel thinking that it was going to be a fun game show, I'm afraid you are mistaken. The only thing this panel has in common with a game show is that it is about survival. Show Me the Money is going to be all about side hustles, which, if you have never heard of it, is a hip new buzzword. We're very hip around here, meaning another source of income, a side gig, something extra you do to supplement your earnings. In fact, being an author might even be your current side hustle. A report from the Royal Society of Literature last year found that 62% of writers who earned money from their writing in 2018 earned between £100 and £10,000. Typically, the incomes of authors whose primary occupation is writing decreased from £18,000 in 2006 to £10.5 thousand in 2018. So obviously, we authors have always needed side hustles. And for those of us who are not David Williams, the side hustle has mainly been festivals, speaking engagements, and school visits. And then came the pandemic. Yay! It was very commendable how publishers, librarians, authors rushed out. Free talks, free books, free video workshops. We all wanted to do our bit. It was like World War I. But then it turned out this pandemic thing is no short-term situation like World War I. We all started scrambling to move our paid appearances online, only to find that the glut of free stuff had reduced the value of the content that made us a living. One librarian said, why should she pay for an online school visit when she already had a long playlist of online author videos? So, dear audience, how has the pandemic affected your income? Please feel free to share your experience in the chat box. Briefly, please, just, maybe a sentence sharing what's happened to you and how it's affected your income. But meanwhile, Steve, can you tell us where the bulk of your livelihood comes from as an author illustrator, and how has the pandemic affected you?
Sure, thanks, Candy. Well, I mean, like everyone else, it's turned our world upside down, really. Because people have said to me, well, you work from home anyway, so surely because you work from home, what change has there been? There's been lots, hasn't there? I mean, everyone has adapted so quickly. And the one thing I really noticed straight away at first was really nice to see, but then it became a bit overwhelming, and you touched on it. And that illustrators and authors were putting out a whole load of free content. And I started to do that for a short while as a way to connect with educators and family, trying to create worthwhile content. But it takes so much time. It's so exhausting. And actually, I lost my Wi-Fi connection due to a broadband fault. So I had no internet for like a month and a half, no Wi-Fi, which was probably a blessing in disguise because it gave me a break from doing all of that. But the one thing I wanted to say, just in terms of that and all this sort of free stuff that's out there, and that is just to be aware that what you create, what you're putting out there is of real value. It's of real value, and I think we need to be selective with what we put out there. And also, if you're going to do things like videos or things next for free, then have some sort of plan. So have some sort of idea as to where it might lead to. So you're creating something worthwhile to the person watching, but it's also worthwhile for you also, in the long run. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit.
Did you feel like you had a loss of income, of your norm, compared to this time last year? Did you lose income?
Sure. Events, no events, nothing at all. I actually made a decision to cancel all my events around the same time that most authors did, actually. Most authors and illustrators decided to cancel their events, which was real. It was not nice, but you had to. You had no choice. And then all of a sudden, all these free videos were appearing. So you're thinking, oh, hang on, I've just cancelled all these events, and now we're doing all these free things like freebies and free videos and stuff. And we've had to adjust really, really quickly. So I've been sort of experimenting with a few sort of side hustles throughout.
So we talk about that later. I'll ask Shoo now. Shoo, how do you normally make your living? Is it really through just the books? And how has the pandemic affected the way you make your living?
Well, I think things are. My big change came with the big financial crash, which is over 10 years ago now, isn't it? And I kind of started seriously side hustling after that, and now I think I'm probably earning over a third of my income. Now definitely over a third of my income from video, and probably.
So you were okay. The pandemic didn't.
Well, in fact, yeah. I mean, as soon as the pandemic came, in fact, my advertising sort of revenue started rising, but not magnificently. It's not. I'm not getting a huge amount from advertising, but I'm getting sort of dribs and drabs from here. My accountant has said to me last time, I went to see him. He said, your books have changed so much. You used to have these sort of royalty chunks coming in from publishers. He said, now you've got $2 here and, $5 from Mexico or something. You got all these dribs and drabs coming in from all around the world. And I think I'm probably, over a third again in dollars. I think straight dollars.
Well, I think you have a lot to share with us, don't you? In that case, because I, like most of the people probably in the audience, was not quite as clued in because I didn't really notice the crash. I was, I think, busy being a mother at the time. But I will be honest, I do not make a living from my books. Most of my income comes from speaking engagements.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself that I have to write a book that has more mass appeal and stop exploring histories that nobody has ever heard of, because then I might be able to sell lots of books. But there you go. Then in 2019, last year, with that shortlisting with the Carnegie and the Costa, I thought, this is it. That means, the meaning of the shortlisting is that in 2020, I'm going to have school visits galore. I'll make a living at last. It's so embarrassing to not make a living out of this thing when you're quite highly visible to the rest of the world as an author. And everyone imagines you make a lot of money, but you don't. And so I lined up a lot of bookings. I had 28 bookings in February that went all the way to October, and inquiries were coming in. I was going to Thailand at the end of February, and the pandemic happened. Yeah. And all of those bookings, apart from one that went online, were canceled. Yeah. So I was being so efficient in that I'd already invoiced half of them in advance, which is not normal for me. So it's really, really terrible. Now, one of the big questions, though, is like my mindset, when I first became an author, I was so used to being a supplicant, begging people to publish my book, that I continued to be in that mode. My mindset was not about selling, but about being this person who had a vocation, who had hopes and dreams that had to be realized. So asking to be paid for what I did was a real problem. And so long, writing had been something I did for love. And I did get over it. And I learned the vocabulary of asking for money. But then I discovered that I wasn't the only one who looked at writing as a vocation. The people who should be paying me also saw my job as a vocation. So they thought that they could offer exposure and they could offer me tiny amounts of money, because it's embarrassing to kind of offer someone who's so famous lots of money. And they squeeze you hard for those tiny fees. Yeah. Now, Shoo, do you think that we have a mindset problem? And totally. If so, how do we change it? Because you have changed your mindset, haven't you?
I'm working on it. I'm probably further down the line than you are, but I'm still working on it. And you're absolutely right. And I'm really lucky to have lived through the golden age of children's publishing. And when I started, there were few publishers around, and if you were lucky enough to be picked up, but there weren't so many people trying to be picked up, so it was easier to be picked up, then the publisher would kind of look after you. But all the corporatization that's gone on since, all publishers now, their loyalty is to the shareholder. And that's all they really care about. And if you're not making money for them, they're going to drop you and they're going to screw you as much as possible. You are just a supplier. You are a product supplier as far as they're concerned, really. Although when you're talking to your lovely editor, of course, they employed the editor so that you think you've got this wonderful, warm relationship with the publisher, but you don't. And so somewhere you've got to get tough. And that starts up here, and it is really difficult, and I think it kind of boils down to what kind of author you are, and if you're into self-expression, and if you're wanting to create a wonderful work of art, then you can't expect to earn a living from it.
What about you? But I was talking to Steve the other day, and Steve actually said, as an illustrator, I've always been hustling. Yeah. I guess you illustrators, and you're an illustrator as well.
I started as an illustrator. So
you do have to be an entrepreneur when you're making things. So Steve, would you say that author illustrators would tend to have a more entrepreneurial mindset? And what advice would you give to authors who struggle with this?
I think illustrators and illustrators/authors do have all you have to do is go on to websites like Instagram, and you can see illustrators just putting out their work putting it all out there. And I've got something I want to say about that in a moment also. But there is this entrepreneurial mindset that we do have, I think. And it's a little bit trickier when it comes to sharing work if you're an author, because illustrators are very quick to give out all their goodies for free. On Instagram, Facebook, social media, put all their stuff up. And I think that's not, I think it's a great way to connect with people. But the point I was going to make, that if you're an author, it's a little bit more difficult to actually put something out on those sorts of websites, because you don't want to be putting out your work on those websites, do you really? You're like a chapter or a piece of text from one of your books. So you have to sort of think about how you can engage with people without giving stuff away for free and without benefiting from the value of your work. And illustrators and authors, but I think illustrators in particular, need to sort of understand that as illustrators, we have this amazing ability to create worlds and visually, and to manifest characters and tell 1,000 words with one picture. And it can be exhausting. It's exhausting. And every illustration you make is your property. It's your property. And it's important to have that control. Know that you are in control. It's your property. You are the copyright holder. You can give permission for others to use your illustrations. You can give them away for free or for money, or you can sell the entire copyright. But it's yours to do with what you want. And it's just to know that what you create, whether you're an author or whether you're an illustrator or an author, does hold a lot of value. And it's important that we know that and understand that, because as you touched on just now, when you get your when you get your first book deal or whatever, you're sort of at the publishers, it's amazing, and you think, wow, this is it. I've got my book deal. I've got a book deal. I've got a book out there, and you almost feel like you have to be like a yes person. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, that's fine. I'll sign away my copyright and all that business. But no, you need to take a step back and think, wait a minute, there is the real value. Like, what can I do? How else can I make money from this?
Yeah. I know when I left art school, then you could just stick your folder under your arm and just go and see everybody. And I used to put a lot of shoe leather, just phoning up saying, can I come and see you, and showing and nagging. And I do remember them saying at the time, we'll always come and see you, but you can't do that as an author. You can't go and say, hey, have a look at my portfolio, because you've got to sit down and spend time reading. And whereas a portfolio, a really good portfolio only has about 10 pieces of work in it. And you can just flick through and go, yes, we can use you for this, for that job. And so, if you're going to make money again as an illustrator, you want to have your folder really focused. And so that the person who's going to commission you knows exactly what it is that they're going to buy. And when they see a story, they can think, yes, that's the kind of illustration that I want. That's the person I want to do it.
It's interesting that you illustrators have objects that you sell.
Yeah.
And somehow that's really lucky. Whereas we writers don't, we have our books that we can sell, but there are bookshops that do that. So it's a bit more ephemeral. And maybe that's why we kind of have like this idea that ours is a spiritual thing, and it's very, very hard to turn it into filthy lucre. I wonder if you can talk about, Shoo, can you talk about how you decided to go into self-publishing? I know you did that ages ago, but maybe it's something that we should, a lot of the people who are in the audience might be already published, or might have self-published in the past, but maybe you could talk about your experience, because I think that the pandemic has actually created a little window where self-publishing might be a thing, because everyone is online.
Yeah. Well, I think I started self-publishing probably when I was about 5 or 6, and I got a John Bull printing set for Christmas, and that was the best ever present I ever got. And when I left school, I went into printing. So, I've been into printing all my life, as it were, and I did help with printing at school and stuff like that. So I've always loved creating print and books. So now that the technology has changed, that it was obvious that I can make my own books, and I got my first edition of Photoshop in about 1995 probably, and I've been playing with all these things ever since. All the software, learning all the software. So I have the ability to do it, and as the illustrator, I can create my own illustrations, and I can just go, this is the book that I want, and this is the book that I'm going to make. And I think I started off really sort of by reissuing some books that had gone out of print, sort of learning and making lots of technical mistakes. And then I thought, what I really want is a how to draw book. So
sorry, Shoo, when you reissued those books, were they hard copy or were they digital?
Hard copy books. Paperbacks. Which I
wanted. Before you go into your how to draw book, could you talk about why you didn't think that was so successful?
Why I didn't think which was so successful?
You said it wasn't. You made a lot of technical mistakes and.
Oh right, yeah. No, I mean that. Well, I mean partly I think the actual the printers and everything, they were still learning their trade. This whole online thing. Ingram that I was still work with. It's just constantly uploading things, and you haven't quite got the dimensions right, and you never know what the colors are going to come out until you've actually printed the thing. But you can then go back and change it. But it is a huge learning curve. I had a lot of books which were out of print, which I still wanted to tell the stories in schools. So, and I'd realized that those kind of 48-page black and white books for $5.99 parents weren't buying. So I bound them up sort of 3 in a book. So you got sort of 98 pages or something, which just was added value. And sort of people were much happier to buy those at $5.99. And at the price I was getting, then I could say 2 for 10 quid. And suddenly I had all these £10 notes coming over the counter at the end of the school day.
One of the things on my list of my suggestions for our audience is that they look at their existing trove of stuff that they've done. And some of us might have had books that have gone out of print that we can repurpose and republish ourselves and profit from ourselves. What was the most difficult thing about doing that? I mean, what was the trickiest thing about making money from repurposing those out of print books?
It's always marketing, and marketing is ephemeral fairy dust magic business, and I don't understand. I think people go into marketing because they can get away with not doing anything. I don't know what marketers do, and every time I try marketing, it doesn't seem to work. I'll get it right one day, but it all comes down to marketing. But you cannot be marketing and writing books at the same time. It's a full-time job selling books. Yeah. And another interesting thing was I did a business course a couple of years ago, and the guy in charge, he was saying, so tell us all about, tell us about your business, model and how that works. And I said, well, I've written sort of 200 kids' books. What? 200? He said, bloody hell, you should be an asset manager. You got assets. Yeah, forget writing. He said, what is it with you creatives that you keep wanting to create stuff? You got all this stuff, just sell it. And he couldn't understand why I would want to keep creating new things when I got stuff to sell already. And it's a mindset.
So you said that you created a book on how to draw?
Yeah. Because I'd done all these, how to draw videos, and then I thought I need a book really just to say, hey, look, I've written a book. I know how to draw. I did it. I just totally focused, got the whole thing done in a month and printed, and it sort of sells a bit. I've just sold it to China, so in a Chinese translation. Trying to sell it to Korea at the moment, and I think it's hustling, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to ask you later when we get to that part of our outline. how do you sell to China and to Korea? But can I go to Steve first and ask Steve? Steve, have you thought of self-publishing? Is there kind of an equivalent in the Illustrator world, and how does it work? Because picture books, I don't think you can successfully sell self-published picture books.
Well, I mean, as an illustrator, there's all sorts of things you can actually do with your art. So there is self-publishing. So yes, you can that's an avenue to take. But you can also, what I've been doing more recently, and it's about changing your mindset. I've been going through my book. I've got several books that have been published over the last several years, going through them and seeing other things in there that I can turn into something that I can sell, like a limited edition print or something. Can I take artwork I've already created and repurpose it effectively? So that was something that I did. That's something that
What do you mean by repurposing, though? What do you mean by repurposing?
What I mean by that is, essentially taking my artwork and actually printing it and selling limited edition prints of my artwork. So I wasn't too sure if I was even allowed to do that to begin with. So I contacted my agent to check if that is something that's possible. And it turns out that if there isn't anything in your contract that specifically states that illustrators can't sell your prints or artwork, then you are free to do so. You can do that. But if in doubt, you must check your contract, because sometimes illustrators do knowingly, sometimes unknowingly, give up their copyright, depending on the project that they're working on. So if the book is like a really big intellectual property that's been around for decades or something, then they might ask you to waiver your copyright. They may say you're not allowed to sell the artwork. But I try to kind of steer away from that too much. I mean, if possible, I know it's not always possible, but pretty much all my books, bar one, I can do that. I can take the artwork and sell it. So I've been doing that. I've been selecting images, and I found a local printer. I got a few prints at first, only a few. I'm not going to buy loads of prints and it'd be a waste of money. So I got a few to begin with. I got my online shop, and then I started to do giveaways on Twitter. So I thought to myself, right, I mean, there's no harm in giving away a few prints, if it's going to publicize the online shop. So every time I would do a tweet, like follow and retweet to be in for a chance of winning a limited edition print, and then link to my shop, I would then normally get like 1 or 2 sales, or sometimes more. So it was worth it in the long run, giving away a few prints. So that's something that
Did you have to share? Did you have to give a cut to your agent? Is that included in your deal with your agent?
No, it's something that I do independently.
Right.
Yeah, and so and it's. Yeah, I mean, there's something that I didn't realize was possible, and there's probably a lot of illustrators who don't realize they can do this. But you've got to be sensible about it. Be sensible about it, because I'm not going to take one of my books and like get all the illustrations in that book turned into limited edition prints. I'm going to be selective and maybe have one or two. And when I work on new books now, I think about that. I think, okay, which of these how can I make two or three of these illustrations? How can I make it work as a limited edition print? So I'm already thinking far ahead, to when the book comes out, and perhaps I can, sell illustrations from that book as limited edition print. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's one example.
When I started thinking about this, I could think of a lot of examples of what illustrators can sell. But what about writers? What have we got that we can sell? And then I was chatting with another friend of mine who is a children's author who has started self-publishing on Amazon. And I can't tell you how to self-publish on Amazon. I'm sure you can just Google it. Mm-hmm. But basically, what's happening on Amazon now is a lot of people who can write. You have your books that you've traditionally published, maybe. But you might also have shorter work, like novellas that are practically short stories. Mm-hmm. You can publish that on Amazon, and it will look like a novel on Amazon, because it will have a cover. It looks like a novel, but actually it's a 15,000 word story. And that would add to the volume of work that you have on Amazon. I know that we're all supposed to avoid Amazon, but Amazon is the biggest seller of books. And if you appear on Amazon to have this volume of work that is not old, that is new, that is replenishing, you actually get a bit of an algorithm bump. And so this friend of mine had started writing detective horror novels. And these detective horror novels are actually only 15,000 words long. They're not like a full-blown novel, like 50,000 words. It's 15,000. So he can write 3 in a year. And that means that when you look his name up on Amazon, he uses a different name. There are lots of thumbnails of books, and he actually has a presence. And there is a thing that Amazon does to push self-published books. So this is something that we could look. There are a lot of really prolific writers out there who just don't have time to write a full-blown novel that takes 5 years to write. You could actually write something shorter. And what you're doing is it's not that you're trying to make loads of money. You are growing your presence, your footprint in Amazon, which is always a good thing because you get found, and then your other books get found. So this is something that's worthwhile doing. That is a side hustle. I thought that would be worth doing in self-publishing. One other thing, when I asked my friends, my writing friends, I went over all my WhatsApp groups and asked everyone, so what thing could you do as a side hustle? And everybody came up with ideas of doing writing courses. Skill sharing apparently is like one of the top things that we can do, meaning doing mentoring, doing workshops. But one of the things that
but there's no money in it, Candy.
Well, yeah, but there is one thing that occurred to me is if we can invest just a little bit of time to create a course on one of those course places. There's Udemy, Thinkific, Teachable. There are quite a lot of them online, and you have to research what's the best one for you. You could create a passive income stream. Passive meaning it just sits there and earns a bit of money. I recently signed up for one of these courses. My friend Helen and a group of her friends started a thing called the Good Ship Illustration. And over the summer, they had this wonderful course where you signed up. There are 10 stages that you go through. Each stage is a little video. You go through the whole thing. They have a little Facebook community side thing, and they got a lot of signups. And they can continue. They can use the same content, and they had a live element to it, and they have quite a lively group of people who follow them on Instagram because they have a Friday art club.
Yeah, but that's the key to it, is that they'd already got that group. And you do need your own platform to do that kind of thing, and you need to have your group of subscribers who love what you do and who are going to buy that course. But if you don't have that and you think, oh, I'm going to make a course on Udemy or something like that, you're not going to make any money. And Udemy will tell you, yeah, come along, make a course. You know, you're fantastic. Yeah, we love what you do. You're a brilliant illustrator. You're a fantastic author. And you're going to spend 6 months creating a course for them. And they'll say, yeah, it'll be $99, something like that. But by the time they have then said, oh, yeah, but if we sell it, then you'll only get 50%. And then, of course, people are only going to buy when they're getting a sort of a 90% discount. So in the end, you're actually earning absolutely nothing. And it's the same problem again, is you've got that group up at the top who are selling everything, and you're down at the bottom not selling anything at all. And if you want to make a course, you've got to make it yourself, and you have to market it yourself, and you have to have your... Yes,
marketing is always key. But I just wanted to say to that, I agree with you that there are a lot of crappy courses out there that don't get taken up and earn tiny amounts of money. But I'm thinking, I read some about these courses, and one of the ways to be successful in these courses is to create a quality course and to not think of volume, as in volume of people signing up. Think about signing up 5 people.
Yes, but if they're being signed up with a 90% discount, you're not earning any money.
No, you charge. You have to charge a lot of money. Sign up 5 people. The course is quality.
Yeah.
And if you have 5 people, every 3
But you have to be
months.
totally in charge of that. You have to be doing your own courses on your own website and not do it on Udemy or any other platform. As soon as you start working on another platform, then they're taking all the money, and you're just part of their long tail.
So there are two kinds of platform. There are places like Udemy where you give a big share of what your income is to Udemy. And there are also platforms that are just platforms. So basically you pay a monthly fee so that you can cite your course on it. And these are, and I think if you have even a small platform of people who attend your workshops, you can, I think there is a possibility in that, but these are all ideas and possibilities.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work to market, to get 5 people to pay $99 a month.
It's all hard work. It's all hard work.
And you're not writing anything in the meantime.
Yeah, that's the problem. We're not writing in the meantime.
I love that idea, the whole tutorial idea, and I've been sort of toying around with that too, looking to see what I can offer. I want to try and keep things simple, and I wanted to say something that I had this thought that authors could possibly do, but you might need to check with your agent or publisher, and it goes back to my limited prints thing that I've been doing. I would love to have on my wall a piece of like a print that's got the author's handwriting with a quote from one of their books, like, or the opening line of the book, or maybe I don't know, the main character saying something, or just something that, you know, something from the book, signed, limited edition. I don't know what you would call it, as prints, still prints, limited edition prints of, you know, a quote.
My God, you gave me an idea.
You would probably need permission from your publisher to do that.
Well, I was going to say, you might need to get permission, but I wonder if there's anything, I wonder if there's a way around that. I wonder if you can, I don't know. Yeah, it's perhaps worth investigating.
But surely, you know, don't we own that? I mean, if I had one sentence from my book, like I have a great sentence from one of my books, so many armpits, so little deodorant. That would look great on a wall.
On a t-shirt.
A t-shirt. Surely
surely
the publisher doesn't get a cut in that, does it?
Make armpits great again on your.
Does anyone in the audience know about this? Okay.
That's a really good point.
So we're talking about repurposing and monetizing content that you've already got. And one other suggestion I've got, you know, and Shoo is probably going to knock it down, is, you know, for example, I have been writing a blog since 2001 about how to get published, and I've had that. It's become a group blog now, but it's full of content, old content, right? But it's already written. And one of the things I could do is repurpose that into several short books about writing. Several, because I'm
thinking, a course.
Or a course, yes, actually, yes, or a course. Yeah. But I'm talking about, you know, this whole Amazon thing where you self-publish. It doesn't have to be 30,000, 50,000 words. You could look at your blog. What can I do in, you know, you could do a book on structuring. You could do a book on character. You could do a book on setting. And maybe that
But you might on your blog for the last 10, 15 years have been writing about, you know, you might have written a really nice post about every little seaside holiday you've had, which if you put them all together, makes something completely different. It's not what you normally do, but, you know, if you stick it up on Amazon, it might suddenly go.
Yeah, it's all about the cover and the title, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing that some people have done is,
I'm not going to knock you. I'm not going to knock you down about your website, because if you're going to repurpose the content on your website, you've been working that website for a long time. You have an audience, and you have that audience to sell to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm going to talk about audience later, but the other thing you could do with a blog, except I don't know how you to make money, is if you have a podcast, like you could start a podcast, and you could.
I know we had somebody ask
the blog.
Yeah.
But
somebody asked before that, didn't we, about that? But you know, if you listen to podcasts, I don't listen to the radio anymore, and sometimes I'll listen to a podcast and think, how are they paying for this? And there's a great one I'm listening to at the moment, which is an explanation of modern technology, and I realized, this is actually put together by Hewlett-Packard, and Hewlett-Packard are behind the whole thing. And other times there's advertising come along, or you go, oh right, this is being paid for by, chocolate company or somebody or other. So a lot of them, it's the old-fashioned thing, soap opera stuff. You've got to find somebody to advertise on your to sponsor you.
Well, some of us. So I have a message from Susie Wild. Susie Wild has been recording a weekly podcast for local radio for over a year with around 1,000 listeners. Wow, Susie.
Yeah.
I've recently added a books program, she says, on our new live stream, repeated as a podcast. I'd love to know how this could be syndicated or in any other way making a little money.
Well, her local Waterstones might pay 50 quid a month if she picks their book of the month.
Well, yeah.
And the local butchers and whatever, they might, I don't know. If she's got 1,000 people locally in a target market, somebody is going to pay to advertise to those people.
Well, my question to Susie is, are you upselling any property that you already have? Like you have 2 novels, don't you, Susie? I mean, are you mentioning it? Are you getting any sales? I'd be really curious if you can comment on the chat box and tell us whether you are selling. I'm just going to copy and paste Susie's link in case people want to see where that podcast. See, Susie, I'm giving you a little bit of a plug here. There. Okay. Well, people who have podcasts are really successful in selling if they have books. But the books have to be related to what they're talking about, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is the thing, Steve. When does it become an advert, or when is it like a waste of time? I mean, I don't know. It's like people are putting. I'm talking more in general terms now. So I just saw a comment on there somewhere, something about finding the time to do things.
Is that Julian?
Julian
Virginia, was it?
I'm not too sure, but and that's a really good point. And I think you have to think about what you do. Think about it cleverly. Is it an advert? If so, what are you advertising? Is the podcast an advert, or would you like that to be your stream? To create a stream of revenue. So they're 2 different things, aren't they? Really, if it's an advert, then what are you advertising? Or indeed, it could be both. You could be earning money from the podcast as well as advertising.
Susie is co-hosting it with a bookseller.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
okay. I see.
Yeah. So it's a book podcast, and but how does Susie benefit from it? The bookseller is clearly benefiting from it, but how do we?
She's benefiting from it by getting her name out there, basically.
Yeah.
But also,
building an audience of her own.
What you have to do, Susie, is write another book, and then your 1,000 followers are going to buy that book. Yeah.
In fact, just write lots of shorter ones and keep telling them every month that you've written a new book.
Right. Can we talk about virtual school visits? Have you guys done virtual school visits?
I don't like them. I don't get on with them at all.
How's it going, Steve?
I've done a couple. I feel like this is. I really still feel like this is relatively uncharted territory. I mean, I know of some authors that have done a few. I don't know of many that have done lots. I've only done a few. So I feel like I'm still figuring it out. Still figuring out. I feel like I've only just figured out how much to charge, actually. And I know someone mentioned that on the thing. They asked if there was a guide on the Society of Authors website, and there is. If you Google it, you'll find it. Society of Authors guide to virtual visits. So yeah, so sure. So you said you don't like them, did you say? You're not?
No, I've been trying to do them for the past 10, 15 years. I think I first tried to do a virtual thing with somebody in Newfoundland about 15 years ago. And it was just such a pain, and getting everybody together, all the technology is a lot easier now that Zoom is here. But there's still I don't feel that I'm giving any kind of worth somehow, and you're just a face on a screen. You might as well be.
Well, the thing is, in America's huge, of course, and it's not going to be easy for someone that lives in New Mexico to travel up to New York to give an interview. In America, as we probably all know, you don't, but virtual visits are really common. They're really common. And they're used to authors asking for money, so it's not like a new thing. Whereas I think here in the UK, it still feels a bit weird, like asking for money for a virtual visit.
I think you've got to add value to it. I think just turning out and going, "Hi guys," and that you can vaguely see some kids in the background on the classroom computer. I don't think that's really getting anywhere. They have to know who you are. They have to have read your book. You have to have done a lot of previous work and made sure that the teacher has done previous work. So they know who you are, and they're really looking forward to you coming into their classroom.
Personally, I
just turning up, I don't think that works at all.
But I don't think people are just going to turn up. People have written their school visits. I have a high regard for my audience. I think people have really, really good presentations that they do live. Yeah. And the question is, how do you translate that to the screen? And we're using the tools that are available to us, which is a lot better than Skype. I tell you, I mean, you can draw on the screen. You can you can have polls. You can do. I did a school visit the other day where I start the school visit with a poll, and I use Google. Google has a poll facility, so I got everyone to answer the poll, and then when they answered the poll, I then clicked on Google and shared my screen, and I could show a pie chart because Google immediately turns it into a wonderful pie chart. The other thing that you can do many interesting things because it's no longer like that Skype interface where you're 1 minute behind and you're answering questions from 1 minute ago. Like you can share. My book is set in a very strange place that if you go on Google Earth, it looks amazing. So I can actually go on Google Earth and show them the place. We can actually fly over these incredible mountains that are terraced into rice paddies.
I do that in classrooms.
Well, you can. Well, because we've got to go virtual, we just have to change our mindset. And in a way, one of the things you've got to do is to try to think, try to imagine what it's like to be watching you on the screen. Because the kind of live thing, there's the energy of your presence, which is not in the room. And I've found that what you've got to do is basically it's got to be snackier. Like the way you design your presentation has to be in little snacks, and you have to alternate the energy levels by creating things like quizzes, like a pub quiz situation, so that the children are always experiencing something new and they don't feel bored. You have to be Sesame Street. In fact, hopefully I'm going to be doing a presentation for the Society of Authors, hopefully next year, on how to repurpose your live presentation into a video presentation. But I agree with you. It's really terrible. And one of the experiences I've had is that when you start doing a presentation in a school, is the teachers all hide. They're not on the screen and you can't call on anyone. It's so hard to talk to the children because you need the teacher to be the interface.
But also, I think in terms of show me the money, I don't think you get a return on investment in time with a school visit. And I know going on a physical school visit, you've got a day traveling, a day getting back, day recovering.
They don't want to pay as much as well. They want to,
but they don't want to pay as much. But I don't think you're getting anything out of. I don't think we get much out of a school visit, and I don't really think they do either, unless you have done a lot of preparatory work and you're selling them a package by saying, here are some previous videos, and you download this worksheets and stuff like that. So you're going to add value to the thing, and then at the end, having done the work, they're going to meet the author who they know all about.
So the way I've been doing school visits is I've pre-recorded a presentation which has images and it's short, and then I do a live Q&A, and that means that I don't have to do presenting, which takes a lot of energy. And because they've already seen my video, they're prepared with their Q&A, and I think that combination really helps that problem that you're outlining there. Now I think we're running out of time. In fact, we have run out of time. Are you guys okay to keep talking?
I'll just tell. I know we've had a few questions about Patreon. And I've had a consistently about 60 people support me on Patreon, and they come and they go, and again, that is hard work to keep people supporting you on Patreon. If anybody wants to do that, you have to totally change your mindset, and you're not an author anymore. You are a community manager.
Yeah.
And it's all about your community, and it's about sort of keeping them happy, finding out what it is that they want. And this is what marketing is all about. It's finding out what your market want and giving it to them. Whereas as authors, what we generally are doing, going, I've had this lovely idea and I wonder if anybody's interested. Whereas if you want to make a living, if you want to see the money, you've got to go, what do these guys want and how can I give it to them and how can I charge them the maximum amount for it? That's where the money is. And it's a total different mindset.
I'm trying to look through our questions. So can we have a session on what equipment we need and do?
No, you go into Google and say, what equipment do I need for a podcast?
Well, in the session that I'm going to do next year, I'm going to talk a little bit about equipment. Then I'm going to give you the links so that you don't even have to Google it. Let's go into platform. You know, we keep mentioning marketing. Whatever side hustle we do, it will always involve trying to get people to discover that you actually have a side hustle. Otherwise, how are they going to buy the thing you're making? Any ideas, Steve?
Well, I think that, the obvious thing that comes to mind is social media, but I want to make a point about social media, and that's that there is this obsession with how many followers you have or how many likes your post gets. And it's very easy to start feeling very despondent if you're putting stuff on social media, and this is what happens, people end up putting more and more and more and more stuff out there, trying to thinking the more and more stuff they post, the more attention they're going to get. It doesn't always work out that way. It's a great way to connect with like-minded people. But I think, again, it's about the mindset. Think about who you're connecting with. Are you connecting with authors and illustrators and having a great time sharing ideas and chatting and complimenting each other? That's all fair and well. Or are you also connecting with teachers and booksellers and librarians? Teachers being really a top one. We really want to connect with teachers. And that's one way of thing, and it's free to do social media. Don't get too obsessed with numbers. It's all about quality over quantity, and creating a sort of a network. Being and feeling part of a network.
Shoo did it the hard way, didn't you, Shoo? Because you had to actually become a YouTube star to make your platform.
Well, I'm not really a star. I don't. But you see, again, I remember telling people on my art course when I was, way back in the 80s, I said, I'm going to have my own TV station one day. And everyone was going, oh, don't be silly, don't be silly. And I knew this was all coming. And I do have my TV station. So again, as soon as there was the opportunity to have my TV station, I grabbed it. And I thought, what am I going to do with it? And I tried various things, and I found something that people wanted, and I sort of started giving them that. And originally, I was trying to convince people, here, learn how to draw my characters, and no one was interested. But as soon as I said, here, learn how to draw, how to draw a sofa. Oh, yeah, we really want to know how to draw sofas or tables and chairs and presidents and whatever. Anything to do with my book, they're not interested in at all.
Oh, no, Joe has arrived. I have a 5-point way. Joe, I just have 5 things to say. Please.
Yeah, I just thought I'd come in now, just in case I missed the connection.
We did miss you.
Go on.
Okay. Everyone is asking, how do you get a platform? And it's really hard work, and it's not random. So one of the things I can advise people who are really worrying about how do they sell their side hustle is you have to do an audit of your platforms, and you will be surprised because you have platforms that you didn't realize that you have. Make a list. School Parent Association, friends, family, the rugby club, gardening club, the book club, librarians, teachers that you've already met, a list of schools that you've visited, conferences you've spoken to in the last 5 years. Who was your contact? Blog followers, Twitter followers. Yeah. Step 2.
And they will start spreading it out.
Well, you don't just, you can't just contact them because that's spam.
Yeah.
Okay, don't spam these people. You're making the list for yourself so that you can look carefully at who have you got. And then you identify who your true believers are. True believers are people who like you and who like your book, who might want to help you spread the word. And then after you've identified your true believers, step 3, identify the megaphones amongst your true believers. These are people who have platforms of their own, who love you, and who will do something to help you. It might not be something massive, but this is all cumulative. And it's very important to know who is in your platform. And then once you've identified the megaphones, identify the platforms that you are already connected to, because you are. For example, you have a publisher. If you have a publisher, your publisher has a database of contacts. If you have ever talked to a bookseller, they have a database of contacts. If you are working with Book Trust on some project, Book Trust has a database of contacts. If you've ever done something for CLPE, they have a database. And then email them about your side hustle. Don't do a group email. Don't do a BCC email. Email them privately and talk to them as a human being. Do not sound like spam. And that is my tip number 5. So we are at the end, aren't we? Shall I make closing remarks now, Joe?
Yeah, go for it.
I wrote down my closing remarks. Okay, that's all we've got time for. It's been great talking about making money and about the problems of making money, and Shoo disagreeing with me on my suggestions. But it is really, really daunting. But, it's to get on with it. It's really daunting. It's not going to be easy. There is a challenge there, and it might be terrible, but it might also be fun. I find some of the challenges that have been presented by the pandemic actually quite enjoyable and exhilarating. Can you shed that vocational mindset that you've started out with? Well, I have to shed it and develop an entrepreneurial mindset. Can you? When we switch off, I invite you all to look at the shelves of books that you've written. Look at your drawer of manuscripts rejected or published. Yes, those are your hopes and dreams, but they are also valuable treasure. They are worth a lot. Realize this, and it will help you hustle, because you are worth it. Okay, that's my closing remarks. Right, Joe, have you got any final say? Oh my God, Joe has frozen.
Oh.
All right. So
I'll give you a final remark, actually. When it comes to marketing, marketing is all about being a farmer, going to the market every Wednesday to sell your stuff. And, you have your local customers every week, which you hope are going to come to you. But you also want to be thinking all the time, what can I plant now that's going to get ahead of somebody else so that I can sell it at a higher price next, in 6 months' time, while I've got a chance to earn a bit of cash before everybody comes in. Because the job of the market is to reduce the price to zero. And that's what's happening now with Amazon and stuff like that. Everybody is out there. The whole world is writing children's books. And the value the value isn't. The price keeps going down, but the value is still there. And you have to learn to sell the value and to provide the value.
Do you have any final words, Steve?
Yes. So I lost the connection just then. So I apologize if either of you were speaking to me just now. Sorry, it seems to be okay now. So my final words is just simple, and that's just know your worth. And if you're going to invest time, time is precious, right? If you're going to invest time in advertising something, or doing new little videos, or posting things online, or the wonderful suggestion of contacting people that so it's not about being online, but about contacting people you already know. I loved that Candy said. That was really great advice there. And just know your worth and make it worthwhile. And yes, it needs to be worthwhile for the person that you're selling to, but it needs to be worthwhile to you. So that's really important, and that's just something to really bear in mind. And don't be afraid to ask for money.
So thank you everybody for coming. I hope that was helpful. We didn't have time to look at your questions because really we should have had 2 hours, and the chat box is filled with incredible suggestions. Joe, can we copy and paste that or something, or share it with everyone?
Yeah, we can definitely take forward some of the suggestions today, including, don't forget, there is a podcasting seminar coming up, which is free for Society of Authors members.
Comments,
So
really good
you don't have to do any
really
Googling whatsoever, actually. It's coming up for you. We'd already talked about that one because people had got quite excited about that on the last C-Week talk, actually.
Do you think, Joe, we could collate all of this? There's some really interesting comments and discussions
Well,
on. Can we collate
definitely.
it into a blog post in the Society of Authors blog post?
Yeah, and you can continue the discussion now on hashtag SOA at home on Twitter, and I'll look into Ali's suggestion of making some genre discussion groups going ahead. So if anyone wants to volunteer for one of these Zoom discussions, I can set that up and we can get that going if people want to completely focus on different topics. But thanks, guys, today. There's lots of really inspiring thoughts there. I feel that you don't have an audience. And one of the things that you probably really miss is a bit of applause. So
all right.
Marvelous suggestions. There's probably enough blogs and articles to fill the next author to take forward there. So thank you to everybody. I want to remind you that this Friday, anyone on Instagram, have a look, because there's a takeover by Dapo Adiola, who's our next speaker for a session on the 2nd of November with the wonderful and irrepressible Sarah McIntyre and Ken Wilson-Mack. So if you've got any more illustration questions, they're going to talk about after the ink dries, and that will cover as well revenue streams as well. Don't forget the SoA at Home Festival continues this week. You've got a translators AGM on Wednesday, afternoon tea with Antonia Fraser on Thursday. We've got our lovely talk, I'm going to plug it again, 2nd of November. And don't forget, you can go buy those books, these guys' books, in fact, on Blackwell's and our virtual store with money going to the contingency fund. And if you want to give a bit of money to the contingency fund, those links could be in the chat bar. look at your loads of cash, Shoo Rayner. Loads of money. Anyway, Steve has the admin control, so you've got to eject all of us now, Steve. And say goodbye to everyone. Steve Antony, or have I been given it?
Is he frozen?
No, Candy. Candy, admin controls have gone back to you.
I can't actually hear. I can't hear Joe.
I can end the call.
Candy, you've got to eject all of us.
I don't know.
You have the power.
Bye, everybody. Thank you again.
Bye.